Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Small Print Podcast. I'm your host, Elise, and I blog at roulettereader.wordpress.com.
I'm Dawn, and I blog at bangbangbookblog.com.
And today we bring you a special edition of 10 Things We Hate About YA Fantasies.
And this may contain some spoilers, so we will say the title of the book first. And if you have not read it, it won't be like major spoilers. No. It's just things that happen in the book that we did not enjoy reading about. Okay, so without further ado,
let's get it going.
All right. This is not in any ranking order. It's just 10 things that have equal
hatred across the board.
All right, so the first one is the Waffle House. And that is when a character goes back and forth. Should I, shouldn't I? Should I, shouldn't I? And
we hate wafflers. Yeah. Absolutely hate them. So my example of a book that had just unforgivable waffling was called Silver in the Blood. I cannot remember the author's name at this point in time.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's not the biggest YA novel, but there's a character in that book that absolutely just ruined it for me because he makes very drastic decisions that mean the death of someone he loves, and then he regrets it and goes out of his way to like change his mind and reverse things, and it just got all kind of convoluted.
I had two. I forgot what the other one was, but the biggest one I had, I remember now, is the Wrath in the Dawn.
Wrath in the Dawn.
She so if you haven't read the book, she has to decide if she's going to kill him or not kill him. And she's back and forth. I'm like, girl,
yeah,
please just kill him and stop complaining about it. And the second one that did it, that really made me lower my rating, was the Young Elites, where she's once again, should I, shouldn't I? Should I go tell the prince about my sister? Should I not? And it was just back and forth. I enjoyed book 2, so I'm excited about book 3, but the first book, that was a really big problem for me. So you're going to make a decision. I mean, I understand that in real life, you do go back and forth and you're not sure, but that's not something I want to read about for umpteen pages.
Right. It doesn't make for good reading.
No,
absolutely.
It's not. All right, next one.
Number 2 is Deus Ex Machina. This, words cannot describe how much we hate this plot device. My particular example is...
Maybe describe what it is.
Okay, so Deus Ex Machina is literally where like a god comes out of the floor and fixes the entire plot. And it can work if it makes sense, if it's built into the plot before the Deus Ex Machina moment itself. But in my example, The Assassin's Heart by Sarah Ayers, I think is how you say her last name. Oh my god. Literally, spoiler, if you're going to read this, literally a ghost comes out of nowhere. She's like interacted with it once, fixes the whole thing, and even the main character's like, that was no big deal. I'm like, nope. Threw it out the window.
That was one of the reasons why I did not like that book.
Yeah.
And then another one that did this was Queen of the Tearling, where she just, it was a long time since I read this book, but I just remember her flying over the town, and then all of a sudden, it like everything was okay.
Oh,
like,
what?
I could be wrong, but that book did have Ex Machina in it.
Yikes.
And that was terrible.
No. Again, can work, but no. Yeah. Typically, it doesn't.
Well, I guess an example of how it does work is the Heart of Kiss of Deception series, where she has visions, but we know from the beginning of the book that she has this gift. So when it may or may not save her at some point, it's not Ex Machina because it's a part of her character.
Right.
So in that example, it works. The next one is what we call the Lonely Island, and this happens a lot, where it is one female among a whole bunch of men. And it's usually in YA fantasies, it's usually, there's a war, or, she's just kind of planted among all these guys because she's the tough one and she's the only toughest girl in the whole group, or she doesn't ever have any friends, or if there is a girl, they're enemies, they're not friends.
Or they're women who have absolutely no faculty or power whatsoever, which is not cool.
Yeah.
Really, you can only write one strong female character in your novel. Again, my example for this is The Assassin's Heart. Really hated that book. She, again, like you said, she's in the middle of this conflict between her family that has just been murdered and another family that perpetrated the murder. But really, You're the only female who it's occurred to rise up and do something about her predicament. I guess so.
I just read a book, and people may disagree with me. I'm not going to say the title, but in this book, she's a tough woman, but the other women in the book are concubines, and so they're trying to tell her that I am powerful because I use my body as a weapon and this is all I have. And here she is. It's like, no. But it seems like the author is trying to get you to understand that at this time period, all women had were their bodies, or they had to marry to form alliances. And this is all the power that they have. And that bothers me. I mean, I understand that that's what happened, but don't try to convince me that that's a good thing.
Right.
I know people may disagree, but I won't say the book because it's a newer book. And,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we said enough about the Lonely Island. Number 4 is called what we call the Guinevere Complex. This is where a woman's beauty or lack thereof is the entire center of that individual's power, faculty, etc.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And even when she is beautiful, every time she comes across a new character, oh my God, she's beautiful. She's so beautiful. And the one book that really, really bothered me, and I'm going to say it, is Nemesis. I can't remember the author's name. But in this instance, it takes place in a fictional Egyptian type of a land where the people are brown. She's laughing at me because I said land.
Egyptian
world,
type of a
it's
land.
world. They're not exactly Egyptians, but that's the sense that you're getting.
Sure.
And so everybody in this world, they're brown because, it's Egypt. But the most beautiful woman who comes across is white, blonde, blue-eyed. Really? No, I hate that.
No.
And there have been several books where everyone's brown and has brown eyes, black hair. But the most beautiful is the white woman with the white blonde hair and the blue eyes.
Who sweeps in from nowhere.
Yes, and saves everyone.
Really? Like,
actually, her eyes are silver.
Why do you bother
but they're not
setting
brown.
it in a culture like that or in a different place if you're not even going to use someone from that culture? I don't get that. Yeah, that's very frustrating. My example is a little bit less serious. Mortal Danger by Anna Guire. This book absolutely frustrated the hell out of me. When we meet the main character, she self-identifies as ugly, and then gets the chance to change her life by becoming the most beautiful person that anybody's ever seen. And of course, she jumps at the chance, and then suddenly her life is perfect. The people who are bullying her stop and now want to be her friend because of her beauty. And this guy who made her too beautiful, and now he cannot help but fall in love with her. And oh my God, it was just a cluster of bad messages and shit I hate.
Another example is The Girl of Fire and Thorns, where in the beginning of the book, she's a princess and she's betrothed to some guy across. Did I say that wrong? I always say stuff wrong.
No, I'm thinking of the other example about the desert journey.
Yeah, so she's a little chunky, and the king is like, oh, she's a little chunky, I don't want her. But she has to go across the desert because there's always a journey because they have to go across on horseback. And she loses weight because it's hot and she's walking, and now she's beautiful because she's lost weight.
That is the worst
plot after that
ever.
It's not the plot; it just happens.
I know,
in the book.
But that's bad. My God, I'm laughing right now because of how ridiculous that is.
Yeah,
oh my God. Okay, no.
All right, so the next one is Good Morning Info Dump, and it's pretty obvious. It's about info dumping. So we have a new world, and in the new world, you have to explain the religion, the customs, the people. There's sometimes a paranormal aspect with the new monster or whatever. And I get that, but authors need to find a way of explaining their new world without info dumping in 1 or 2 chapters, especially in the beginning.
Right. My example is a newer book. It came out earlier this year. It's called Unhooked by Lisa Maxwell. It's a Peter Pan retelling, and the author made it pretty obvious that she loved her Captain Hook character and absolutely could give a shit about the Peter Pan character, because with the Captain Hook character, he was so well developed and there was not a hint of info dumping. But then anytime Peter Pan, who was, spoiler, okay, if you're going to read this book, spoiler, Peter Pan was the evil character. Anytime she went into explaining how he became evil, who he really was, anything about his background, it was info dump, info dump, info dump. And you're like, wait, it was just so much. And then he didn't seem like a real character. So the plot was intensely one-sided, and it was just awful. And she kind of info dumped her world a little bit, which is really weird. I mean, take the time to show this world that you're developing, because we want to read about it. That's why we picked up your book. So that was my example. I really found that disturbing.
My example is The Diabolic. I didn't finish, but I got through 3 chapters, and I swear, please tell me if I am wrong, but I swear that the second chapter was all info dump. And I mean, this was a brand new world set on the freaking moon or whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, and I'm just like, so, and not only was it a new world in the moon, but it was also war strategy. And I don't really like war strategy, especially when it's a lot of it, because I could give a shit. So I tend to like blank out on it, but it was compounded with that. And so it was just chapter 2, all info dump, and I didn't get past chapter 2. So if it is a really good book, or you know, you read it all the way through, and maybe I need to give it another shot, please do, because I would like the cover. Book by the cover,
but it does
it
have
has
a
a
really
cool concept. And
yeah,
so yeah.
Yikes. Number 6. Tale of a Million Cities. A little homage to any Dickens fans out there. This basically means that the author has decided to, again, place her characters in a new fantastical world, and she's not content with 2 or 3 new cities. No. There's 10 or more.
And not just cities, but their characters, and all of their names are hard to pronounce.
Yeah.
And
literally gives you a headache.
Yeah. Where you can't keep up with all of the characters, and then they don't put a glossary or a character list or something. Because if you're going to have a lot of characters, please. A good example of this is Falling Kingdoms, and I really like this series, but the first book, I think the first 2 or 3 chapters, there's probably like 50 characters in the first like 3 chapters. And it was just like, oh, I can't keep up with all these people.
My example is Truth Witch, and I did like the book, don't get me wrong, but not only is there a lot of locations that they travel to, but there's a lot of characters. Yes, and not only is there a lot of characters, but each character is a different type of witch, and you kind of are like, wait, what is this again? It was just, yeah, the beginning of the book was a little bit difficult to orient yourself in.
As I was reading, because it became kind of like a joke, I started keeping a tally of the number of different witches, and I think I counted up to like 20. Like, okay, we're up to 20 different types of witches. I can't keep up with all of this. So hopefully she fixes that. Right? This is your jam.
I just did the Tale of a Million Cities.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I guess. Okay. So the next one is The Evil Plan. I think I'm the only one with an example for this, but recently we just did a reread of The Heart of Betrayal. I'm sorry, they all have similar titles. The Heart of Betrayal by Mary E. Pearson. Again, love this book. Not condemning the book at all, but there is a scene in the book where the villain pretty much just lays out his entire plan before the heroine. And when does that ever go well?
Never does.
It never goes well. I mean, it's now a joke, like in movies when the villain has the gun pointed to the hero's head and like, ha ha ha, I'm going to tell you my whole plan. Like, I mean, come on. You know, it always bites them in the ass.
You know it's a good show that's good. It's Doctor Who. He always asks the enemy, what are you doing here? And they always tell him, and he always does. And it's a running joke. He's like, come on, just tell me. Just
because it's obnoxious. I mean, don't put up. It's like a pearls before swine situation. Don't put it all out there. You know, have us slowly decide what's going on. But yeah, that's a frustration for me for sure.
The next one, number 8, is I Would Walk 500 Miles. And this is where usually in epic fantasies, there's a long journey across a long plain or desert or whatever. It's almost always on horseback because cars have not been invented yet. And we must suffer through these long journeys across the world. And it's okay as long as something interesting is happening.
Well, that's an idea, an epic fantasy in a car.
That would be a road trip, I guess. That's a road trip now.
A fantastical road trip. Yikes. Yeah, I had a problem with Siege and Storm for this very reason. I couldn't even finish the book, let alone the series, because I was just like, okay, nope. When she met the pirate, I was like, I'm good. I'm done. Which is weird because I love pirates.
He was actually a really good character.
He was a great
He's
character,
the best,
but
one of the best ones.
I didn't
Stormhound.
I didn't like the main character, so that's kind of a different issue. But then I got to sit with the main character on this journey across this whole. No, I was done.
Once again, I'm going to choose Nemesis, and she has to go to this new world, and she meets these people, and it's just like. And this is another thing that we didn't add that really bothers me is when they fall into darkness. I fainted and I woke up and this happened. This happens to this girl at least 5 times.
Oh my God.
One world. I'm like, oh no. And she's supposed to be strong and she keeps fainting and getting hit in the head and stuff. So yeah, you're either gonna like develop a romance while they're on this journey, okay, but make it a good development. Or what else usually happens on these long journeys that they go on?
They discover themselves.
Yeah, it is a point of growth.
Yeah,
for a lot of characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it ends up getting a little cliche though.
Yeah. Okay. Number 9 is the war strategist. I've been saying strategist, and she keeps correcting me.
Maybe we're both right. I don't know.
I think it's from that SNL joke from Bush, and he was like, strategery.
Strategery.
Oh, no, I'm Bush. I'm George Bush.
Yeah, don't develop a Bushism.
Okay, so the war strategist is when we have this character, this heroine, hero, whatever, and you know they're usually just like a lowly person. They're not really bright, or they're a slave, or they're just not
someone who has no business being a war strategist.
And at the end, they are telling the general how to win the war.
Yikes.
So Nemesis. This book, can you tell that?
Who is the author of this novel?
Anna Banks. Anna Banks.
No way.
Yeah. Yes.
I like
this
Anna
was
Banks.
My first book by her. I didn't read her other series. But yeah, I mean, yes, she was the princess, but she was kept locked up in a cage for her talent. She's not. All of a sudden, she's winning wars.
No.
And there was another book that did this, and I was just like, oh, the Red Queen. Oh my God, this girl this was the book I could remember. She was a pickpocket. She finds herself into this world, and now all of a sudden she's winning wars. Pickpocket?
To be a pickpocket, you have to have cunning, strategy.
But are you going to win wars?
Stealth.
Are we going to win the war on terrorism because we're pickpockets? No.
Well, when you put it that way.
No.
Okay. I rescind my comment. A way that I think this was kind of, it personally bothered me a little bit, but I think it's generally done well, was the winner's kiss. So Kestrel is raised as the daughter of a general. She is time and again exposed to war strategy.
And he likes teaching her.
He teaches her,
because he's grooming her to be in the military.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Teaches her how to fight, all this stuff. So it made sense. She doesn't just throw herself into this situation. She actually does not want to. She's very reluctant, and it's kind of forced upon her a little bit. But yeah, I didn't like it only because I'm not personally interested in war strategy, and that's why I found the winner's kiss a little bit sludging. That's not a word, but it was like sludge that I was walking through. It was just not a fun time because I was like, they're actually in war, the whole book.
Yeah, the other book where it had a lot of strategy, where I was just like, I'm done with this, is Anti-Darken. It was, the second half of that book was all war strategy, and I'm just like,
yeah,
I can't. I just don't find it interesting. I'm sure there are a lot of people who
absolutely
do, but
sure.
I can't get into it.
And last is called what we call empty affirmation, and this is kind of my pet peeve. I don't like it when a main character has to continually repeat to themselves over and over again about how strong they are, but yet they're not backing it up by any action whatsoever. Like, there's nothing wrong with a character reminding themselves that they have a purpose or that kind of thing. I mean, but again, when there's no action backing up the plot whatsoever, and again, my example is Silver in the Blood. There's a main character who you can kind of tell is being groomed to be the heroine of the story. She's gonna save the plot, and that's kind of obvious because of how much the author bangs you over the head with the fact that she is, quote, the strong character, when everything is going against that. She's timid, she doesn't stand up for herself, she's easily manipulated. I cannot stand that. I can't stand that. So that's my biggest pet peeve. Silver in the Blood happened on every freaking page.
Ooh.
Yikes.
In other words, don't read that book.
Yeah, I gave it a 2 stars.
Ooh,
it was low.
Yeah. All right, so those are our 10 things we hate about YA. What are some of the things that you hate about YA? Please join our conversation in the comments below or on Twitter. You can follow us at Small Print Pod. Our next podcast will be September 1st. We currently do not have a topic yet, but
TBD.
It will happen. 1:30 Central Standard Time. So thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Okay, bye.